Hi, everybody. David Noor back with another episode and really sharing insights, ideas, perspectives from our upcoming Relationship Economics Summit. This will be our fourth annual event. I got to tell you, it's a chance for me to do what I love, which is really invite customers, partners, friends from very different walks of life to join us and really share in a really intimate setting challenges, opportunities, and aspirations. And if you think about it a second, all of my cybersecurity clients keep going to cybersecurity events, and all the manufacturing clients keep going to manufacturing events and healthcare, and rightfully so. But how often do we really get a chance in a hopefully a non-judgmental area to interact with senior executive peers and talk about, here's what I'm struggling with. And on the surface, it'd be very easy to assume Kathy Bedell, who runs a multi-billion-dollar travel business, has nothing in common with Bill Hogan, who's the chief revenue officer of a cybersecurity company. And yet they sit next to each other and figure out they're struggling with the exact same issues. And that's my aspiration for this event, is to get busy executives out of their day-to-day obligations so they can really focus on their aspirations. Obviously, these events you can't put these on by yourself. And I'm elated to be joined by a good friend, Michael Norden, who's an EVP at Sandler. Hello, sir.
Hello, David. Good to see you. Good to be with you.
It is great to have you. Michael, for those that may not know as much about you, can you start with just a brief overview of where you've been, what you've done, and a little about your role at Sandler?
Sure. Well, as you know, I'm in this industry for almost 30 years now, so I'm dating myself, but I've spent the whole body of work in my career, really studying how salespeople first learn, then how do they perform, how do they grow, and most recently with the all the changes in technology and everything that's available to us, how do we adapt? And so spent a number of years with Zig Ziglar, which was just a great foundation, learning from the best. And then been at Sandler since 2010, had a couple startups in between. So really my whole life has been around personal and professional development.
I love your story, and again, like, talk about dating yourself. I think I mentioned too that I went through the Sandler training in the mid 1990s
Yeah.
with Silicon Graphics and then subsequently Alias Wavefront. Obviously, it's not the same company. Talk a little about how do you describe Sandler to leaders today, and how do you position the evolution of the firm?
Yeah, thanks for teeing that up, David, because Sandler is definitely not the Sandler of yesteryear. I mean, it's not the Sandler of even 3 years ago.
Mm.
We are so different now. What we say is that we're a data-driven performance development solutions organization that drives significant and measurable impact. And so, what does that really mean? So, what that means is that before we do anything with our clients these days, because we do have access to data now, like we've never had access before, how do we benchmark where they are in their talents and competencies? How do we benchmark where they are in their sales performance? What are the key KPIs that are super important to our clients, and how are they trying to move those? And once we benchmark that and we understand where the gaps are, now we can design the right program, because we know that typically our clients invite us in because they're trying to get better at something, right? They're trying to improve something, increase something, expand something, or reduce something. That could be increasing average deal size, increasing net new logo acquisition, obviously increasing revenue. They can be improving margins, improving win rates, expanding by getting better, going higher, wider, deeper, upselling and cross-selling. You're just expanding wallet share and market share. Or they're trying to reduce sales cycle time, customer attrition. Those are some of the things we hear that we get invited in for. So in a nutshell, that's really who Sandler is today. But we start by making sure that we are being data driven, because you've been around, the industry for long enough, David. You know this to be true. In the past, it used to just be like, hey, wink, wink, nod, nod, do the sales training, it'll work. Well, now we can benchmark it or baseline it and then prove the ROI over time.
Love that. And I love the data driven decision making, because it's no longer my either gut feel or opinion. I can actually look at that. So, Michael, build on that a second. Talk about state of the profession. How has the landscape of sales training, obviously, has been around for a long time. How has it evolved? I love that you said Sandler's not even the same Sandler 3 months ago. What's driving the biggest changes in how organizations really think about their sales talent today?
Well, so it's a really timely question too. So and it's we don't know if it's good or bad yet, the good or the evil yet, but we do know how important AI is, and ChatGPT, large language models, and how salespeople are either leveraging them and using them or not, and they're getting passed by.
Mm.
So we know that this technology is not going to replace salespeople, but people who use these technologies are going to outpace and outperform other salespeople who are still being resistant to it. But here's the danger side of it that we all have to face. And I just heard this come out of a conference a couple of weeks ago. So there's some thinking out there that says, hey, we have AI and we have ChatGPT. We can create our own sales training. What do we need companies like Sandler or anybody in that industry? Why do we need them anymore? And that's really just flawed thinking, right? It would be like me saying, hey, I'm going to take my really beautiful, nice Porsche, and it even just needs a basic tune-up. I'm going to take it to the high school vocation and let them work on my Porsche, right? No, I'm going to take it to the Porsche dealer because they know that car inside and out. There's so many nuances, especially with Sandler. Like, we are so psychology backed. It's one thing to be able to download and put the question in there, run a 2-day sales training based on the Sandler model. But unless you have somebody who really understands the nuance and really brings that human element to it, it's not going to work.
And I'm reminded of you've seen the meme, ChatGPT, can you finish building that building for me? Right. And you've heard me talk about, we believe AI is going to go one of two ways. Either it becomes Terminator, where I don't need you, or ideally we like the idea of it becomes Iron Man and it makes you better. So fundamentally raising the bar on the skills, the competencies, the capabilities of the sales force to address a number of things you said. I don't think that's going to go away, Michael. I think that's going to continue to set the bar on the profession and the professionalism with which some people show up versus others.
I agree 100%. And I'll give you two very recent examples. Well, one is just the whole concept of salespeople get lazy, right? We know salespeople are inherently lazy. Like, they want to push the easy button, path of least resistance. So they never really were good at pre-call planning. Well, now they have no excuse. You can do a pre-call plan in 30 seconds and get all the information you possibly can need on that prospect or your customer, right? So there's no reason for them not to be doing a pre-call plan. But I was actually doing a training yesterday myself with one of our newest clients, and there are 300 people there, and this is their use case. The group that we were working with are their client success folks. So these people have existing clients, and they have big name clients: Google, Microsoft, Adobe, McKinsey. Like, this is a big organization. And so they asked them, hey, how many of you before AI and ChatGPT would take the time to read one of your clients' 10K reports? How many would sit on an analyst call? How many hours were you putting into really understanding your client? And hardly anybody raised their hand. Well, how many of you now take the 10K report and the analyst report and drop it into ChatGPT and ask it for a summary, and it happens in seconds, right? So there's so much good that can come from it. We have literally instant access to knowledge and data.
That's exactly right. So let's talk about behavior versus that technical mastery. Sandler's really long been focused on, Michael, mindset and behaviors in many ways, as much as the tactics. Talk to us about how enterprise clients are balancing the much needed skills training with still attitude and accountability and showing up in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and then what you're describing there is the Sandler success triangle: behavior, attitude, and technique. And we believe that it's all equal sides of the triangle. There's not one that's more important than the other. Everybody can come in and talk about giving you skill, right? Giving you certain techniques. A lot of companies will do scripts. Sandler's not a script-based company, but nobody comes in and really talks about what are the behaviors you need to be doing on a regular basis, And what does your mindset need to be? What does your attitude need to be? As well as the skills, because when you take the time to build the whole person, and that's what you're doing, what we're talking about in essence, right? Attitude, behavior, and technique. We're building the whole person. If you take the time to build the whole person, those people are going to in turn build you a better business. So attitude, I'll describe it this way. There's an ages-old argument. Does attitude drive behavior, or does behavior drive attitude? And a lot of people will say, and again, coming from the motivational speaking world with Zig Ziglar, people say, oh, you just have to have the positive mindset and you can go conquer and do anything. Well, at Sandler, we believe the behavior comes first, because if you wake up and you don't feel like prospecting, you don't feel like making calls, you don't feel like going to see the customer, unless you actually go do it, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so like going to the gym, like some days you wake up and you can't wait to get to the gym. Other times you're like, I'm going to blow it off. But then you decide, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym, even though I didn't want to. But within 5 minutes of being in the gym, I'm fired up. I'm pumped up. My attitude is better. Everything is great. So what we're trying to do is connect that will and the skill, right? The behavior and the attitude, the will and the skill. Because everything we're doing right now, talking about attitude, do I have equal business stature talking to the C-suite? Do I have a good money concept, or am I going to discount all the time? Do I have conviction in my products and services and conviction in my company that we're the best choice for my prospects or customers? That's all attitude stuff. And that plays a huge part in the success of sellers.
Love it. And Michael, I'm coaching a lot of executives that some of these things are the uncoachable. Some of these things that have to be innate. Some of these things you gotta come built in, right? If you're not driven, if you're not focused, if you're not prioritizing some of these things, if you don't show up, that's going to be really challenging. For our audience, if you just joined us, you're listening to Michael Norton. He's an EVP over at Sandler, and he is a dear friend, and he's helping to sponsor our upcoming Relationship Economics Summit. This is a gathering of senior executives and next up leaders. It will be our fourth one. You can see right there, obviously a really good friend and a big contributor to revenue leaders, to CEOs of companies who are really trying to raise the bar on what they do and how they do it. And this is a great event for us to get together. Michael, talking about coaching, switch gears a second and let's talk about the sales leadership gap. How equipped do you think are today's frontline sales managers, sales leaders to effectively coach? And what do companies get wrong about developing their sales leaders?
Yeah, so that's another really great topic and one that's overlooked all the time. So if we just back it up for 1 second, we talk about sales training. And if we are working with an organization who's not going to put their sales managers or their sales leaders through the same sales training and expect to see any kind of difference, that just never works, right? We won't do that engagement because we know it doesn't work. You have to have the sales leaders and the sales managers bought in. But here's the other mistake that we see all the time. Organizations think that they're, just because they have the title of a sales manager or sales leader, that those people know how to coach. It's a huge gap. It's a huge mistake. They think having one-on-one meetings and talking about pipeline and talking about deals is some form of coaching when it's really not. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we've got a framework. It's called our Sales Leader Growth Series, and there you go. You're pulling it right up. It's Coach to Success. That's the prerequisite for all of the other programs that we have. Strategic coaching, how to build an operating framework of coaching. But then we get very tactical, David, and it's coaching client meetings, coaching deal advancement, and coaching pipeline optimization. So when we are working with clients and we get in there, I told you we do the data-driven performance development, right? So we're doing the assessments to figure out where the gaps are. And then we know, is the gap in pipeline and forecasting? Is the gap in deal advancement? Do you have too many stalled deals in your funnel? Or is it just that they've never been taught how to coach, how to be a good coach?
So one of the things I like a lot is that, Michael, you guys have experience in working with your enterprise account team. I love hearing the diverse companies and even industries and markets and products and by definition buyer journeys that you guys get involved in. how do you ensure the training stays relevant and personalized while you set a very global standard? And again, the other thing I appreciate is, you get that consistent approach to the Sandler methodology, the Sandler training.
Yeah. So back in the day, everybody had an off-the-shelf program. Come in.
Plug and play.
Yeah, just plug and play. Well, that doesn't work anymore. You think about the world we live in. We have pictures of our family right on our phone. We have Facebook or social media that's personalized to us in the way that we like to use it. So when people come through sales training or leadership training, no longer is it, hey, just give me off the shelf programs. It's is it really relevant to my industry? Mm-hmm. So we at Sandler go an extra mile in our level of discovery. It's not just making a few phone calls, doing a little research. It's we really truly understand what's going inside the company. What's a day in the life of your seller and sales manager look like? Where are the barriers to success? Where are the opportunities? What are the questions they ask? What are the questions that they get asked? How do they answer those, and how does that lead to the next series of questions? What are the most common objections that you face, and how are you helping the prospect overcome them in their mind, not you as the seller? So, but it's got to be relevant to their industry. It's got to be their situation that they're dealing with every day. And I will give our trainers just a good shout out here, because they are so awesome. And I get to sit on the trainings with our net new clients. And you always get, David, you know this to be true. You always get a salesperson there. This will never work for me or with my customer, right? My prospects. You don't understand my world. And literally our trainers just go right in and they say, great, you be your client, I'll be you. I've never sold your product or service, but let me show you how this particular technique would work. And they jump right in a role play, and sure enough, they're like, oh, yeah, that does work.
Yeah, every client, and there are certainly some nuances, but the fundamentals are very consistent across, I think, a lot of industries, a lot of challenges and opportunities. But I do want to talk about, I think you brought up ChatGPT, you brought up AI. Michael, I can't help but think the modern buyer is getting a lot more sophisticated than I think, certainly when I was carrying a bag. So how have their changing expectations for sales professionals? I think I read like they do a ton of their due diligence before they ever talk to anybody. When a professional seller shows up, what competencies are now table stakes, and what competencies are going to really set one professional apart from others?
Yeah, and so I think the number you were looking for, it's right around 70%. Some people say it's 72, 75% of the decision-making process is already done before they even meet with a salesperson. Because just like we say, we have access to their 10K and their analyst reports, and we can digest that and truncate it and summarize it really quickly. Well, now the buyers are doing the exact same thing. They can look at content now, especially in our industry. They can look at all of our competitors' content. They can do the same thing and say, show me Sandler versus Challenger, and which one is better in this particular industry. And they're going to get that information. So table stakes are, when you show up, you better have done your pre-call plan and your homework. Do not ask questions that you could have answered by going to their website.
I can't ask somebody, what do you guys do?
Yeah.
Get out.
And here's the other thing that you have to be able to do as a good seller these days. Everybody gives, when we ask what's the most important part of a sales process, people would say, well, maybe filling the funnel, the front part of the sales process, really getting good at filling the funnel or prospecting. Maybe it's the middle, qualifying, presenting, or maybe it's the end, closing, right? And then upsell and cross sell. But the more we dig in and really talk about that, the most important part is the qualifying, is talking to the right person at the right time, who's got the right budget and the right pain. But qualification, David, because again, we have data, we have access to data, we can do ROI models. Qualification without quantification, like without really going for pain and just understanding somebody's pain, is meaningless today, unless they understand what it would mean to them to solve that pain.
Again, for our audience, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Michael Norton, EVP over at Sandler. And I got to tell you, Michael, every time we talk, I'm reminded of that meme of of the CFO asking the CEO, what if we train all these people and they leave? And the CEO's response of, what if we don't and they stay?
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
there's never a good time for training. There's never a good, I have had zero clients tell me we've got so much cash just sitting around that it's obscene that we don't know what to do. I mean, everybody's got budget constraints. Everybody's got uncertainty in some aspect of their business model. But I got to tell you, pouring love, support, development in your people, I'm a huge fan of. And I just think it's also a testament to the organization's belief that your biggest asset, that talent, can never stop learning, can never stop growing, can never stop being relevant to that which your customers need.
Yeah, and you just reminded me of something that's really important. One of the misconceptions people have about our industry is that companies only call companies like Sandler and all of our competitors when they're broken.
In trouble.
Well, the truth is, if we look at our portfolio of clients, we are working with some of the highest flying, best performing companies out there, but they want to keep the distance between them and the competition. They want to keep training and get their people better because they don't want anybody catching them.
That's exactly right. But let's talk about, Michael, I'm also a realist, right? At some point, you got to be able to measure it. You got to be able to really talk about a return on that invested time, effort, and resources. What metrics do you believe really indicate that that investment, that pouring of the love and support that I talked about in sales training, in sales coaching, in better prospecting is working beyond the activity level or the pipeline size? Because I think those could be misleading. So where else do you guys look for in terms of real metrics? You brought up data driven, and again, a return for that CEO or CFO who's always trading off where we should invest.
Yeah. And one of the ones that used to be something that we all talked about was quota attainment. We don't really talk about that, number of people in your organization, reaching quota, because quotas are sometimes really overinflated. They're not realistic. Sometimes you have people who are crushing quota by 100% or more, and other people in the organization, even though they're at 80%, it's still good business, for the business. So quota attainment's a kind of not one of the metrics that we really focus on. But what we do focus on is revenue per rep, right? Revenue per rep. Average deal size is enormous. And the other one is win rate. And revenue and margin are always going to be there, but win rate. So think of it this way. And we're working with an organization, and their win rate was 2 out of every 5. 2 out of every 5. Mm. When we did the ROI calculation, if we just moved that by 1%,
you're playing with house money.
It's ridiculous. The return on investment was ridiculous. If it just went to 2.5 out of 5, right? It becomes ridiculous. So those are some of the things. But you're right. Anybody who's going to be signing up for 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people or more to train them, it's no longer wink wink nod nod. We're going to get success. It's like show me the number, show me the math.
I brought up earlier a culture, kind of, again, I believe leadership down, that says we can never stop learning, we can never stop growing. I was on a call with a CEO earlier today about decision velocity and learning agility. Those are all signs of kind of a culture of continuous learning, continuous growth. Talk about how are the best sales organizations, Michael, embedding reinforcement and accountability. So once we do the training, you've seen the movie, it doesn't become a manual that you shove on a shelf and everybody forgets about what we just invested in. How do you ensure that gets carried out throughout and it becomes the fabric, the DNA of the culture?
Yeah, and that's something that we're really proud about here at Sandler. There's nobody, and again, I said this earlier, 30 years in this industry, there's nobody who has ever put as much thought, energy, or muscle into reinforcement the way we think about reinforcement. Sandler, one and done doesn't work. You can put people in for a 2-day boot camp and they'll get motivated, they'll get excited, they'll have some great ideas. They're going to forget 90% of it by the time they walk out on day 2, right? It's just going to be gone. The forgetting curve, right? So you have to build in, you have to think when you're thinking about building a training roadmap, there has to be touch points along the way, revisiting the content, 60-minute, 90-minute additional workshops, coaching hours, asynchronous or self-paced learning, all the tools. But you know what the big one that's out there right now, David, that we're just crushing it? We have an AI role play tool. So you can pick your avatar, you can pick whatever male, female, race, ethnicity, language. You can pick anything you want. You can pick their personality. Are they aggressive and assertive? Are they friendly and amicable? Are they data focused? Are they high, like on the DISC scale? You could pick, what you want the personality to be, and you could put in you can create as many role play scenarios as you want. So the seller today, after they come through the Sandler training, and it's in the privacy of their own office or wherever they work out of, because nobody sees their attempts unless they give them permission.
Sure.
So the manager might say, as an example, hey, Michael, my manager might say, hey, Michael, go do, I want you to send me your best 30-second commercial on Sandler. Well, now I go into my role play tool, pick a partner, and I role play giving my 30-second commercial. But how many times am I going to do it, recording it, until I like it? So I may take 3, 4, 5 takes.
Sure.
But that's 3, 4, 5 at bats. I'm getting practicing a technique. And so think about this: the managers, instead of one-on-ones, and now they ask their salesperson to role play, they can have them do the role play it back at 1.5, speed, and they can get through.
I love that.
One of our clients is saying their managers are experiencing an hour a week of extra time because of this.
I love that. It reminds me, like, when none of us are born with this stuff, right? So when I was first getting in sales, just having, a buddy or a peer or somebody, hey, can I run this by you? And everybody's busy, right? So having that, and I love that idea of that role play. Hey, let me try this, or I can't, Michael, I've never been able to take a script and not sound scripted. I got to make it mine. Yeah. And those nuances and how do I make it conversational is what brings that authenticity, and it brings out that connection. So if I can role play that with an AI platform or an AI tool, love that idea. Again, for our audience, if you just joined us, you're listening to Michael Norden. He's an EVP over at Sandler. And I guarantee you, if you haven't looked into Sandler for a while, it is not our grandparent Sandler. So they've got an annual summit coming up next March. I've been to one of them. It's fabulous. Love the different buckets of professional development. Michael, I love this, elevating the performance with, connecting with the buyers. Who's going to say no to this? How do I tech enable our solution? How do I create personal transformation, collaborative coaching? So I love a lot of what you guys bring to the table. My question of you is, talk to me about human connections. Again, we've talked about this, right? In a AI hype world, in this digital era, and my passion for relationships, and I often talk about, we might be more digitally connected than ever before, but we're losing our kind of human connections. So in this virtual, like the Hollywood Square, in this data-driven world, what role does authentic relationship building still play in not just winning that initial deal, but Michael, growing the account, deepening the account?
Yeah. And it was again, just having been with a client yesterday and working with this group who was also very digital forward, they could not get enough of the adult to adult truth-based conversation that Sandler brings to the table. That's what we're all about, is teaching people to have that adult to adult truth-based conversation. Because we know this, people will talk to people that they like, but people will do business with people that they trust and respect. And the only way to earn that trust is not happening digitally. Trust is happening when you and I are either meeting just like we are virtually, and we can have that time together, or in person. COVID did a lot of bad things, in the world, obviously. But coming out of COVID now, I can't tell you how many more times people want us to meet in person. Like, it's good to be getting back to seeing people physically in person. Because that human connection is so important. And that's what I really respect about you so much.
As we wrap up our conversation, I'm going to ask you for a little, not necessarily future gazing, but I want you to anticipate moving forward. If you could, let's talk about future of sales training, Michael. If you could redesign the enterprise sales academy, the sales enablement, the sales training and development function of the future from ground up, what would it look like? And what would you leave behind from kind of the old model of been there, done that?
That's a tough question. I wasn't prepared for that one, but I'm going to go back in time because I think what we're about to see play out is something that got a lot of press, 5, 7 years ago, but because of the way that Gen Z and millennials, we know, like, we've always had multi-generational workforces, but now we've labeled them, and now we study how they like to consume information and what they do with it. I think micro learning, giving people shorter sound bites, things that they can do and go work on immediately in between the training, is going to be key. I think, and we know that the retention is greater when we can spread out training over time. So as great as bringing people together in 1 day or 2 day events, because there's nothing like the peer-to-peer learning around tables or during the breaks or at dinner when they're talking about the training that happened. We know though that if you then take the time to spread out the training, but make sure that it's consistent, the retention is going to be far greater. So I think we're going to see micro learning take a greater shape. I think AI we're only in our infancy with AI. Here's where sales training is really going to go. And we're at the infancy now. We're all dabbling in it, but embedding sales training in the flow of work.
Love it. Love it.
CRM, because sellers live in their CRM, or they live in their sales loft or outreach, right? They're living something. How do you put the content where they're already working so they don't have to go look for it?
For our audience, I would submit that few organizations have influenced really the discipline of professional selling more than Sandler. As I said earlier, I'm dating myself because I went through my first Sandler experience back in the mid-90s. And for decades, this methodology, I would submit again, has helped countless professionals from very diverse kind of industry sectors move from transactional selling to that consultative, to that value-based relationship. In essence, an evolution that marries very much the foundation of relationship economics. And this is why I'm grateful to Michael and Sandler as one of our sponsors for the upcoming Relationship Economics Summit. It is happening next week in the stunning Highlands, North Carolina. If you have not been in October, the leaves change colors. It's beautiful scenery. And we've got some fabulous both the front end of the week is our Next Up leadership development program, where I don't call them next gen. It really is leaders who are ready for the next evolution of their personal and professional growth, all the way up to senior executives that, again, come from very diverse, you can see the attendees, very different industries, roles, responsibilities, and in one setting, in one environment, non-judgmental. They're there to learn and grow. I'm disappointed that Michael himself won't be able to join us, but a very good colleague, Mark Foley, who's VP of their global accounts program, will be there. And again, Mark is a great friend and another consummate professional, and can't wait to engage him. We've got a panel of CROs that Mark's going to join and talk about evolution of selling and aligning the way we sell to the way buyers buy. So, Michael, on behalf of our team, thank you. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all that you do for the profession of selling out of the market.
Thank you, David. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It's great to have you. For our audience, thanks for joining us. I'm going to continue doing both these on our Relationship Economics Summit. We also have our USKO 2026 Ready series, and of course, our revenues, relationships, and AI. So look for the next episode, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everybody. Make it a great rest of the week.